Assalamualaikum and welcome to Game Changer. I'm Mariam Zia. In today's program, we will be talking about Pakistan's relations with Bahrain. Pakistan and Bahrain share long-standing relations and are very close to each other, and there are a lot of sectors in which both countries are working closely, like economy, as well as there are other sectors that we'll be exploring in today's program. When we talk about Bahrain, the Kingdom of Bahrain is a small island that is located in the Persian Gulf. And we will be talking about, when we talk about Pakistan's relations with Bahrain, we know that Pakistani diaspora in Bahrain is an important link that connects both the countries. We will be talking about China-Pakistan economic corridor and the opportunities it presents for the Bahraini investors, and what are the future prospects of the trajectory of the relations between the two countries. To discuss this and more, I'm joined in the studios by Mr. Humayun Khan, who is a senior analyst, and with him I'm joined by Dr. Zafar Nawaz Jaspal, who is expert in international affairs, and we are joined online by Dr. Hassan Javed, who is economist and expert in international affairs. A very warm welcome to you all in the program. So Dr. Jaspal, let me start with you. When we talk about Pakistan's relations with Bahrain, how do you see the historical trajectory of the relationship between the two countries, and how do you view the current state of relations between the two countries?
If I divide your question into three phases, let's say pre-71 when Bahrain became an independent state, till today and future. So if you can go pre-era, of course there was a civilizational contact between the Bahrain and Pakistan. I mean, when we talk about Indus civilization or South Asian civilization and Dilmun civilization in this Arab region, so there was a contact. So it means that it was a centuries old contact between the two regions. Now coming back towards the Bahrain became independent, and after that we have a consulate of Bahrain in Karachi as well as in Islamabad, and same in we have a consulate there in Manama. Now if we can focus on what are the things, Bahrain is one of the smallest state in the GCC countries, but if you see its population is around 1.5 million, but out of them is 120 million diaspora is Pakistani, and 30,000 Pakistanis have a visa, you can say, nationality there. So by this way you can find that the Pakistan has a great you can say presence in the form of nationalities or as a diaspora in the Bahrain. And then in the Bahrain you can say government services, Pakistani retired and young people, they are very much involved, especially in the Bahrain police and defense sort of a thing. If you focus on the current situation, I think that of course later on we will be touching it, but if you see that Pakistan and Bahrain has a close relation, but Bahrain has been facing challenges because of its ethnic divide within it, sectarian divide, and it has a conflict, or you can say some kind of a tension with the Iran. But now being an ally of Saudi Arabia or being a member of the GCC, but after the Chinese role in rapprochement of the Iran and Saudi Arabia, definitely Bahrain has a sigh of relief, and it will be having more opportunities.
So
Similarly, we have.
Of course. So Dr. Jaspal, like you mentioned, there is some ethnic divide in Bahrain. So how do you see that the political events in Pakistan and such kind of happenings or social developments in Bahrain impacted the bilateral relations in the past few years?
I think that this ethnic divide in Bahrain we can more is explainable this because in Bahrain generally said 55% population is Shia, which has an Iranian orientation, and then the 45% is the Sunni, which has a Saudis or Salafi orientation. But we have seen that when Pakistan and Bahrain's relationship, this element has not been visible. So we try to focus it more above this sectarian or ethnic kind of thing. The ruling elite in Bahrain is Sunni elite, and definitely they have a good relations, but it's very interesting when one can review Bahrain is being a small state, knowing their limitation, where they develop out of the region relation with the United States as a defense partner or with the United Kingdom. There they try to not provoke their neighbors. In their neighborhood, of course, they have a challenge like a big state, Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia. They try to maintain a cordial relation, but of course Bahrain has a more nearer or tilt towards the Saudis, and that also contribute Pakistan and Bahrain's relations. But generally when I focus on Pakistan and Bahrain relations, Bahrain tried to maintain a relation with Pakistan out of the GCC influence or not dictated by GCC, or you can say not dictated by sectarian but more integrative kind of thing, economic, cultural, religious. Of
Of
course,
course.
Pakistan is acceptable to both Shia and the Sunni communities in the Bahrain as well.
Of
And
course.
Bahrain, if you see in the Syria or in this Yemen, Bahrain, like Pakistan, try to distance from
Neutral
those
policy.
policies.
So, Mr. Humayun, how do you see what role has international diplomacy played in the relationship of Pakistan with Bahrain, and especially when we talk about these regional developments or the global developments that we have been witnessing in the past few years?
I think I'll continue with from where Dr. Jaspal just mentioned. Post 1971, when we developed our diplomatic relationship, the relationship has been very cordial. The relationship had been diplomatic, economic, political. There are high-level visits. 2006, if I remember correctly, Prime Minister Shaukat Aziz visited. President Asif Ali Zardari visited. His Majesty King Hamad, he visited in 2014. From there, we started our first bilateral political consultation within the foreign ministries. And then there are regular exchanges. Prime Minister Khan visited there. Army Chief visited. General Bajwa visited Bahrain. We have a very close diplomatic, also we have very close defense relations as well between the two countries. There's a huge diaspora which lives in terms of the GCC countries. It's more than like around, Dr. Jaspal was mentioning, 1.5 lakh people, and they give huge remittances to the Pakistani side as well. If I am not wrong, in 2020 it was almost around $1.3 billion which was remitted to Pakistan in 2020, and it depending upon a year it goes higher and lower, but it's a very, very important relationship between any countries. And speaking of this ethnic division, Pakistan has always been very close to Saudi Arabia, but we are also very close to Iran. And we always wanted to have a relationship where Iranian and the Saudis can converge and do not make a battleground here. So having said that, Bahrain being a Sunni monarchy which is there, very closely associated with Pakistan. We have Bahraini officers coming to our defense academies. We Pakistani sides also go there. We have interest in real estate there. So it's like a big relationship in a way that started in 1971. And the trajectory started going up post 2000, post 9/11. There's nothing to do with the 9/11, but I'm just saying that after 2001, the last 20 or 30 years, the relationship has gone significantly very higher.
Right. So, Dr. Zain, when we talk about this, trajectory of relationship between the two countries, we know that Pakistani diaspora in Bahrain played an important role in linking the two countries. So, how do you view the impact of Pakistani diaspora on economic development of Bahrain and the relationship between the two countries?
See, in recent, if I talk about the 2019, Bahrain's investment in Pakistan reached about 2.5 billion, which is the highest as we discussed so many countries, but we were in millions. But this time around, I have found that the Bahrain investment in Pakistan is reached about 2.5 billion, which means making it one of the largest investors in the country. So the good point in the Bahrain way that most of their investors comes to Pakistan, and their most of the interest in Pakistan is it is of course the word used by Dr. Jaswal is a sigh of relief. So if I talk about the comparative relationship with the other countries on the GCC, as it is the smallest GCC country which has the lowest of the other countries in the oil richness, but they are the Bahrain recently in a very good in a different and maximum companies in IT. They are working in IT. They are working in a virtual reality. They are working in a different areas, small but very clean way. And their life and the life and the corporations are excellent in the different way. So if I make a comparison and the balance of trade between the Pakistan and the Gulf Cooperation GCC countries in 2020 is in minus, but that goes always in minus. Same as way in United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Oman, Kuwait, and now is Bahrain. So
Right.
our whole purpose of this conversation is just to focus on the comparison why we are in minus 35.27, which is very bad in trade partnership. We have to export. They are investing. Bahrain is investing in Pakistan, and they are also very much interested in CPAC, but we have to focus on this way. So second most important thing is the scrap iron, which is a refined petroleum, which costs about 58.5%, which is actually is a 21.6%. Then is a bovine meats, it is about the 22.5%, rice and rolled tobacco 6.5%, and the potato is about 3.45%, and rice is 13%. So that's mean our commodity is required by Bahrain. So if I talk about the exports, this total on the 61.9 million, and the top products, which is about the beven meat and other thing, and refined petroleum. Uh, One important thing is we have just three refineries. We must have to collaborate in the refinery projects so that Bahrain and Pakistan collaborate in the new more refineries. As Hamaya said in the last program, he discussed about the refineries when we talk about the Russia. So we cannot make any persistent collaboration in the refinery project. We need refineries. If we have the crude oil from the Russia, and if we don't have the refineries, how can we meet the expectation of the oil? So
Right.
in the trade area, the Pakistan export to Bahrain amount is 128 million in 2020, while it import from Bahrain, it is about the worth of the total is 234 million in the same year. The major export to Pakistan to Bahrain, including textile, rice, fruit, vegetables, sport goods, and major imports to Bahrain, including petroleum products and chemical, aluminum, and plastic. So, in these three areas, chemical, aluminum, and plastic, we have a special economic zone under the CPEC, and we
Right, we
have
will be talking more about the special economic zones later in the program. But when we talk about economic relations, like Dr. Hussain mentioned a lot of areas, how do you see what are the key factors that are driving Pakistan's relations with Bahrain, and how do you see that they have evolved over time?
I think that we have to focus on Bahrain's 2030 vision,
Of
which
course.
they announced, and at the same time, what is our own vision in this context? That means that our CPEC is now entering the second phase and third phase. Of course, there are many areas where Pakistan and Bahrain can cooperate, and especially Bahrain can be benefited from Pakistan, and Pakistan has also benefit from there. The first point in this context is that the Bahrain is trying to shift its dependency. Its major income is oil and gas, but Bahrain is not trying to shift from oil and gas to the other areas. Of course, for those areas, Bahrain need a human resource. Pakistan is good in the human resource, especially Bahrainis are looking from primary to intermediate, undergrad, postgraduate. You can say disciplines teaching in the Bahrain, so Pakistanis are well versed in it, and Pakistan can contribute and assist there. In this context, we can cooperate with them in a higher education as well as in a you can school or these kind of the management, which is a good tapping, and many times you find that the Bahrainis are looking for it. Secondly, in this context, we attract the Bahrainis students in our vocational training institutes, and especially in that context when we are looking about the technology and these kind of the things. If you recall, a few years back, the Bahrain and Pakistan signed an agreement, and Pakistan trained more than 2,000 nurses, which are primarily working, which are now working in the Bahrain. So in the medical sector, Pakistan can contribute, and Bahrainis can trust. Bahrainis are trusting on Pakistan. These are the areas where, of course, one can move in this context. So we have a very common interest in a trade and investment, and in the especially in the case of Bahrainis are interested in human resource development,
And
technologically
Pakistanis
equipped,
already are
and
contributing.
we are
Of course, Pakistani diaspora is already contributing to the Bahraini economy, but there is still a lot of potential. We will be talking more about it, but after a short break. Welcome back. We are talking about Pakistan's relations with Bahrain and what is the potential of enhancing these relations. Mr. Omai, when we talk about economic relations, of course, political factors and the regional developments play an important role. How do you see the recent regional developments or political situation in both countries have impacted the economic relations between the two countries, and especially if we talk about foreign direct investments coming from Bahrain to Pakistan? How do you view its state here in Pakistan?
I think taking a cue from what Dr. Hasnain just mentioned, that Bahrain has invested heavily in Pakistan out of the GCC country, and in terms of its like size and capacity, they have invested like $2.5 billion, which you've just mentioned. That is a huge amount of money from a country investing in Pakistan in the recent year. Having said that, in 2019, Pakistan and Bahrain organized its first business opportunity conference in Bahrain, where the Pakistani business community was invited, and the idea was to explore avenues. Dr. Jaspal just mentioned about Vision 2030 of Bahrain, where Bahrain wants to move from an oil and gas economy to a diversified economy, where it is sustainability, ecosystem, digital economy. So I guess in that respect, and since it's like a country with a very smaller population, and out of that, if it's like 1.5 million and 100,000 plus Pakistanis are living there, we have a very cutting edge advantage here. We have a huge population here, which is the youngest population in the entire South Asia in terms of the chunk of 15 to 30, and it's like 60+% in Pakistan. So if we could train our people, we could make their skills valuable, give them a skill training, we can export more human resource. And as we have just mentioned earlier, if 100,000 plus people living in Bahrain can send around $1 billion per year to Pakistan, imagine if we could do 200,000 people there with hospitality management, real estate expertise, medical nurses, and the list goes on and on and on.
Of course, there is a lot of potential.
I guess that's where the focus needs to be. People in Pakistan needs to be trained and then sent to. Our human resources are capital now, and we need to capitalize on that.
We need to capitalize on that. But Dr. Hasnain, how do you see, what are some of the main sectors in which there is a lot of potential for collaboration between Pakistan and Bahrain?
See, many collaborations. I mean, Dr. Jaswal has rightly said that they have converted their economy. As per the Memorandum of Understanding on the Political Consultation signed in 2018, and there is another GCC countries along with the Bahrain, there is a coordination between the IT sector. So main export area is the IT, and Bahrain is investing in Pakistan, which is very much rare in the other countries. We have never seen this type of area, because most of the Pakistan are the working class over there, and most of the our skilled labor and IT experts are being welcomed over there.
Of course, I want to talk about the IT sector. That is very important, like you mentioned earlier. How do you see, what are some of the opportunities here in Pakistan that Bahraini investors or the businessmen can maximize on?
See, one of the most important sites, for example, if I just take the name, I think there is no worry about it. There is a NetSol, there is another companies, there is 3 to 4 major companies is working in Bahrain. They are working in this sensory types of the BMWs and other car. They are working on the Tesla's car. They are working on the gadgets. There are so many working areas in Pakistan in collaboration with Bahrain. So what we are doing, the Bahrain investors comes in Pakistan and working in the IT sectors. They come here and establish so many IT companies over there, and most of the people think that they are growing, but the 50% in the last government, it was the 0 rating on the IT sector, and then most of the Bahrain companies, IT based Bahrain companies, are in Pakistan. But
of course,
this should be
so Dr. Hasnain, how can Pakistan leverage Bahrain's position as the regional hub for IT and collaborate in these sectors?
See, we need to go for that way. Like, for example, if we go to America, if we go to United Kingdom, they offer us their state, we offer their state. we have the collaboration, we have to understand the reforms in the Board of Investment, we have to facilitate them with a zero rating taxation. And most of the things I just wanted to give you a few clues about the major agreements. If we understand these agreement, and then taxation in the income and exemption on the income, that the more company will attract. So agreement on the avoidance of the double taxation and the prevention of the fiscal aviation with the respect on the taxation on income. This is the one of the important concern by Bahrain. Otherwise, this 2.5 billion would be the 6.5 billion or the 10.7 billion more than that. The same as the problem is faced by the Chinese as well, by the way. So I just pointing out. So we have to focus on the planning division, which is not working at all. Believe in me, if they are listening to me and they are asking me and they are calling me up, why you are saying this on this platform? Because we have to rectify our own problem, and then we have to understand we have to pick up our economy. Otherwise, we will go down.
We have to rectify these issues.
Yeah, so this agreement was signed in 2018 and aimed at promoting trade and investment between the two countries. Now it's eliminating. And why they eliminate the double taxation income? They again increase the taxation. The most of the Bahrain companies back again. Believe in me, most of the 75 companies in the IT sector, which is working in the virtual reality, they are working in the robust technology, they go back just because of the double taxation, which is not good. So our Board of Investment must have to investigate this issue as early as possible. Then is a memorandum of
we must need to investigate that, and so that we can collaborate further on different areas. And when we talk about this collaboration, how do you see, Dr. Jaspal, we can collaborate in research and development sector, and what can be done to facilitate this collaboration?
I think that, of course, it was pointed out by our doctors and among also many areas in which we are cooperating, and in the research and development, especially from the higher education sector and in the technology and in the emerging technology domains.
But we see a lot of challenges. What needs to be done to facilitate these collaborations?
Yeah, but there is another area which we cannot be missed. Then I will come back. I just wanted to draw your attention. The most important area where Pakistan and Bahrain cooperate, and they have been cooperating in that area, is the security sector, traditional and non-traditional. In the traditional, of course, Mayu in the earlier mentioned that the training of their soldiers, officers in our military training institutes, but let me focus on the non-traditional side. In the non-traditional side, Bahrain always concerned about its border security, civil defense, international crimes, or what you call it, this migration or these kind of things, and Pakistan can assist in this. And of course, in the modern time, you need a technological innovation for in handling them or using the technology in this context. And Pakistan can assist, or Pakistan can train the Bahrainis in this context, and especially in the cyber crimes domain. Because when you talk about the technologies are there. We say there are 20 plus new emerging technologies, or they are also referred as a 20 plus destructive technologies. So if you use them for a positively or for the betterment of the humanity, security of the state, they are good. But if you use them for the destruction, like cyber crimes or these kind of these things, then it's problematic. And Pakistan has been working on these things because, especially in the domain of artificial technology, cyber technology, or in the other areas where we can find automation, I think the Pakistan assists Bahrain in learning in those technologies. And finally, in this context, if you see that Pakistan, Bahrain, or including besides the Bahrain, other GCC countries, they all are they are facing a challenge of food security. And of course, for a food security, you not only need the fields to produce the food, I mean the agriculture product.
Because only 1.2% of Bahrain land is agriable.
Yeah, right? But in this agriable land, more than that is that now the new technologies are coming, what we call it tunnel farming, what we call it the, you can say big warehouses like poultry in the layer or in the other poultry domain. Similarly, we have to see how you preserve the food. For example, when the fruits are shipped from Pakistan to Bahrain, how you increase their life. And for that you need a technology, not only here. For here, of course, our industry is emerging in the food, the fruit industry, that they vaccinate and then they pack and they send. but at the same time there is need to how to preserve there. So in that context we cooperate with them.
Of course, you are pointing out these opportunities where we can collaborate.
Yes.
But there are challenges as well, certain challenges. How to address these challenges, and how do you see what are the reasons of those challenges? Are there lack of collaboration between the two governments, or there needs to be more business to business interactions between the two countries that needs to be facilitated by the bureaucratic procedures?
I think that we have to keep in mind Bahrain is a different political system and we are following a different political system. There, Bahrain is a kingship and Pakistan is a republic democrat. Democracies moves systematically with a different pace. And in a Bahrain, of course, one man a vertical hierarchical order is existing. But of course, the bureaucracies in both countries are not as efficient as you desire or the bureaucracy's performance required in a modern world, because we have you can say different kind of a bureaucracy. There are many questions, red tapeism or these kind of these things. Even President of Pakistan recently, when in one of the meetings, said that Pakistani bureaucracy need to improve its functionality and operability. Similarly, in the case of Bahrain, and including the, if you see Bahrain and many other countries in that part of the world, basically Pakistan and Bahrain are developing states.
Of course.
And in the less developed countries, this is a phenomena that their bureaucracies are still functioning on the traditional mode or traditional training, you can say, timeline. So that's why their SOPs are the old. They need to change and revisit. I think this is the biggest.
These are the major bottlenecks.
Yeah, this is the biggest hurdle in between both states. Second is the good news is that both states at the political level, I mean at the ruling elite level or at the people-to-people level, but Bahrain is one of the states with which Pakistan has no enmity, and Pakistan is very comfortable with them. So, but how we can translate this as an opportunity and catching the opportunity, of course, again, you need how you can increase your acceptability. Pakistan, of course, Pakistan, or whatever these number of the people which we mentioned, both my companions, that around 150,000 people of Pakistan are there. But if you see, when in the last 50 years, Bahrain economy was oil, gas, and they need workers, and then they were building their cities and infrastructure. So unskilled workers were acceptable.
Of course.
Now you need a skilled worker. And now we are also looking the attraction of the Bahrain's investment.
And talking about attracting the investment from Bahrain, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, Mr. Humayun, is an important, flagship program of BRI. We know that. So how do you see what are interest of Bahrain in CPEC, and how do they see investment in CPEC as contributing to their own economic development goals? Because we mentioned, like Dr. Jaspal earlier said, that we both are developing nations.
Yes, absolutely. I guess now that we are entering into the second phase of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, and there's a renewed interest in terms of industrialization, in terms of production base in Pakistan. Some of the Chinese companies are supposed to be relocated to these special economic zones, which are like rigorously under the process and being set up in. 4 of them are already in the process of like setting up, and then 5 more are on the way. In that, there are opportunities not only for Bahrain but all other GCC countries, and we have seen that. We have seen promises from Saudi Arabia, we have seen promises from UAE, being our friendly countries, brotherly countries.
So how has Bahrain invested or participated in CPEC so far? Are there some projects that are undergoing? And let's talk about the special economic zones.
Yes, they have shown interest in terms of setting up certain industries in Pakistan. If give me a minute, I'll tell you, like there are already like 4 or 5 Bahraini companies, like massive companies, which are already in Pakistan, investing in Pakistan, setting up their businesses. There's Investcore, which is basically leading alternative investment product company. They are in Pakistan for last couple of years. Gulf Air is operating between Pakistan and Bahrain. There are like 3 different destinations, Lahore, Karachi and Islamabad. Then we have Al Baraka Bank, which is based in the headquarters in Bahrain, and they are operating in Pakistan. Then we have a Motor City, and their subsidiary is Diwan Motors in Pakistan, and their producing, or as of now, if not producing, importing their vehicles in Pakistan. And then we have this Bahrain Economic Development Board, and this is basically a board which was set up like a couple of years ago. And this board basically helps the Bahraini companies to come and set up the businesses in Pakistan. And same goes for the Pakistani companies. We're also very much interested in going there in their real estate sector and then hospitality sector. And as Dr. Jaspal and Dr. Hasnan was mentioning, this is an area where we have a huge population. We can train them and gain revenue from them. And that's also an area where China-Pakistan Economic Corridor comes in, where the the Bahraini companies can come and invest in hospitality sector, in tourism sector, in infrastructure development sector, in oil and gas. That's also their expertise as well.
Energy cooperation is also very important.
So,
there is a lot of potential, but there are a lot of challenges, and how to address these challenges we will be talking about. We are talking about Pakistan's relations with Bahrain and how Bahrain's investment in CPEC is going to be impacting the regional development and prosperity. So, but when we talk about these investments in CPEC and the interest of Bahrain in CPEC, Dr. Hassan, we see there are a lot of challenges as well. How do you view these challenges, and what needs to be done to address these challenges to attract Bahrain investment in Pakistan?
Most important challenges in the whole world is that to me, and I'm the biggest, you can say that I don't believe in the way that democracies in all over the world is working. See, the monarchy or the autocracies in everywhere is a better economy. So same as the way in the Bahrain, you have already have done so many programs in Oman, Qatar, and everywhere, wherever the monarchy system is there, so their economy is better. So on the lighter note, you must have to understand there is so many good behaviors in economy, in the culture, in the tradition, and the decision making. Wherever we are the biggest, promoter of the democracy, we have the worst system of decision making in every department, in the Ministry of Industry, in the Board of Investment, in the Foreign Office, everywhere. So major challenges what we see is the double taxation. Wherever we get the benefits, we use from single to double taxation every time, everywhere possible, and the fiscal invasion. Then is the major area what we're facing is the facilitating in the agriculture department. Pakistan is working with the agriculture with the Bahrain. So this agreement was signed in 2019. So the biggest challenge as I think in the second program, Dr. Jaspal, pointing out that issue, and also Mr. Hamayun discussed this issue. We have a lot many memorandum of understanding. In my whole life, I have done 50 plus memorandum of understanding. Believe in me, with the shame, I wanted to tell you that single of the memorandum is not been completed so far. It is just the memorandum of understanding and nothing else.
So what are the bottlenecks that we have not been able to implement these memorandum of understandings between the two countries whenever we talk about these bilateral relations?
Single line, the unstable political system, and we don't follow the 5-year plan of the complete economic governmental system. So single system is we have an unstable democracy. I just wanted to talk about the CEPA, which is very much important. I don't want to miss it. The Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, CEPA, which is also for the CPEC. And this agreement between the Bahrain agreement and negotiate the CEPA with the Pakistan, which will bring so many investment, as Hamayun told you about the 5 companies, which is very much important, and many other companies and many other huge banks are coming here in Pakistan. But we have to reforms in the planning division, we have to reform in the Board of Investment. What they say is the Pakistan adopted a very liberal and investor-friendly investment policy, which provides no restriction on remittances capital, all sectors are open for the investment.
These are the
and equal
developments that are required in government to government sectors, but how to facilitate the private businesses or private investors in Pakistan?
Private business, see, board of investment, one window operation must have to, I mean, securitize all these businesses and all those maturity system and the approval system. But these are so slow, and the financial hurdles and glitches. Okay, I don't want to, put this point out because this is a bureaucratic glitch, and I don't want to be the part of this. So we have to remove all this system. We have to freely and fastly friendly trade investment system so that no trading, no hurdles would come. But one more important thing, the MOU is underway in the manufacturing, tourism, logistics, information communication,
Right,
technology,
of course.
financial service, healthcare, education, and vocational. So all these need a very better way. But why not you are, giving the commercial consulate to these countries? Pakistani commercial consulate must to be in the all over the world, especially in the GCC countries. Otherwise, we will not bring the maximum business volume and trade.
Right. When we talk about bringing in maximum business volume and trade, training of cities between the two countries is an important agreement that we have signed back in 95, then 2003, and in 2013 as well. Training of cities agreement between Manama and Islamabad was recently signed in 2013. So how do you see what role cultural exchange programs and such kind of agreements play in enhancing the bilateral relations between the two countries and attracting, economic development as a further goal?
But we have to think out of the box, because the issues which we three already deliberated or contemplated for enhancing Bahrain and Pakistan relations, in addition to that, we have to think a little bit more. I fully endorse whatever it is there, but frankly speaking, Bahrain is a very small country but with a big per capita income. So where we have to attract the cooperation, we think that Pakistanis are still thinking in a traditional kind of a domains or traditional sectors. Let's say tourism, which Amayu pointed out, it's very attractive for them, but again it's a very small community which can visit or we can visit there. Besides that, energy sector, of course, but there is a area which we fail to tap, that is the blue economy. In that case, Bahrain is an island. They have a good practices how to deal with the fishery, aquaculture, and processing and trading, these kind of things. Then maritime, what you call it, transportation. These are the areas where we can work with them and we can identify new vistas for improving Pakistan and Bahrain cooperation instead of just focusing on the previous kind of things. These are the areas where Bahrainis are interested because they have a coastal line, they have a zones, and we have a coastal line, we have zones, and these are the areas where the world future economies are
of course,
lying.
the economy is important, but tourism and of course people-to-people contacts are also very important. How do you
of course,
see
without the people-to-people contact, as you were rightly pointing out, we cannot have a aquaculture cooperation or a fisheries cooperation. But my submission is that instead of relying on the previous sector, of course we can sustain them, but these are the new areas where Bahrain, because it's a island and we have a big coastal line, so we have a convergence, and then we are neighbors, and therefore if
we can collaborate in maritime sector as well.
kind of a neighborhood. So in this context, of course, if we can work together for maritime transportation and of BRI, for example, Belt and Road Initiative, Chinese are lying, and CPEC major component is maritime transportation from Gwadar to further, because from Gwadar to Kashgar road transportation, they are not interested. They are interested from Gwadar to the rest of the world.
Of course.
So if we can cooperate, this is the area maritime transportation where Bahrain and Pakistan could work.
So, Mr. Humayun, what lessons can be learned from other successful, bilateral relations between the two countries when we talk about Pakistan's relations with Bahrain, and can be implemented for enhancing these bilateral relations?
I guess the lessons are pretty clear that, we already have a very strong foundation of our relationship. We need to capitalize on what are the strong points both countries have. We need to continue working on LNG infrastructure, petrochemical projects that Bahrain has promised to invest in Pakistan, then also in hospitality, real estate, infrastructure, and from that we also move on to what Dr. Jaspal earlier was mentioning about non-traditional areas of cooperation. So if we could merge on that, I guess success is for both the countries.
But what steps needs to be taken to ensure that these benefits that would be gaining after the enhanced bilateral relationship between the two countries are shared equitably between both nations?
I guess there are like a couple of areas in which we could work on, particularly setting our own house in order, ease of doing business in Pakistan, transparency, security, and then continuous collaboration with the Bahrainian and also GCC countries together as well. We have signed, we are also in the process of signing an FTA with GCC countries. And together with that, our defense cooperation is ever expanding. So if we could merge all of these together and continue working in a trajectory which works for the benefit of both the countries, I guess we will benefit very soon from each other's relationship.
Of course. Thank you very much, Mr. Humayun Khan, for joining in today's program. Thank you very much, Dr. Zafar Nawaz Jaspal, for joining in today's program. Thank you very much, Dr. Hussain Javed, for joining in today's program. We discussed about Pakistan's relations with Bahrain. Of course, there are a lot of areas in which both countries are collaborating, but there are certain challenges as well. As both Pakistan and Bahrain are navigating the recent regional developments, both countries need to enhance their bilateral cooperation in certain sectors for broader regional prosperity. That's all from Game Changer tonight. Take care. Allah Hafiz.